coming up on this part 2 episode of the New Money Habits podcast.
Somebody in their young 20s getting added to their parents' credit card that had a long history, high balance, and low utilization rate, walked away on day one, like after the month that it finally reported to her credit, with a 720 credit score. So you want to give your kids a head start in the financial landscape of things. Hey there, budgeteers. Are you ready to unlock the power of each payday and take control of your finances like a boss? Introducing the Payday Power Planner from New Money Habits. This isn't your average budgeting tool. Oh no. With the Payday Power Planner, you'll harness the unique rhythm of your paychecks to supercharge your financial game. Say goodbye to the confusion of monthly budgets and hello to the clarity of every payday. You'll know exactly when money is coming in and when it's going out, giving you the edge you need to stay on top of your finances. But that's not all. With the Payday Power Planner, you'll easily spot whether you're rocking a surplus or facing a deficit. Armed with this knowledge, you'll make informed decisions that set you up for financial success. It's time to transform your relationship with money and create the new money habits you need to achieve financial freedom. Get your hands on the Payday Power Planner from New Money Habits today and start making every dollar count. Don't let financial stress hold you back. Create a better plan for your money and seize the power of your pay period and thrive with the Payday Power Planner. Visit newmoneyhabits.com now to grab your free copy and unleash your financial potential.
And so that's definitely one of the slippery slopes I think can happen. But another one is just once you've convinced yourself that it's okay and maybe even good to use credit for whatever reason, it can get out of hand pretty quickly, especially because we know that usually we will spend more when we have something to swipe. We tend to do a little bit less when it's a debit card, only unless there is an unlimited amount of money there. So if you're on a zero-based budget and you're like, okay, well, I have this amount for this specific thing, you're probably less likely to spend on something else. If you use one of the other types of budgets, like an 80-20 or 70, 10-10, some of those other kinds that are out there, you might be a little bit more willy-nilly with your debit card because it's not as rigidly set out for you, right? Like that plan isn't quite as rigid. And if you have a credit card where it has an unlimited amount of money, you're going to be even more willy-nilly than before. And I think it's really more tied to how much of the guardrail is there for you.
Yeah.
And so maybe you're the type who doesn't need a guardrail. Maybe you have a fear of, you have the plan I'm going to pay it off right away. Like 25 minutes after I do this, I'm going to pay this off. And so that's how that's going to, never accrue any interest. So if you have this plan and you know that you're the type of person who needs more strict guardrails, then maybe you have to, even if you use a credit card, set up a good habit to turn right around and pay it from whatever category you have already set that aside for.
Yeah. And so as we kind of transition into like behaviors, right?
Yeah.
Yes, intentionality and purpose. So I mentioned earlier that when I first applied for my first credit card after closing every credit card, and it had a singular purpose. But then I also introduced the fact that my wife didn't want to use didn't want to pay cash at the pump. And so what happened is, okay, well now at first, there was actually a second debit card. I was doing the debit card thing for a while, and then I was like, I don't even like it for gas. So then we got another credit card. And it became that there were two checking accounts, and one checking account got funded with the gas money all the time. So she could use the credit card easily. And then to your point, whether I was doing it the day of, or if I was just doing it every pay period, paid bi-weekly, we were making the same equivalent payment because we had the cash on hand. So I want to talk a little bit about, you just called them guardrails, but like that intentionality and that purpose. So if there is a purpose for you using a credit card, the idea would be that you have the cash on hand in your checking account, savings, wherever it is, to pay for the use of that credit card immediately. Not that you have to go and make the payment immediately, but that you have the money. So with clients, what I've done, I have a young woman that I'm working with who has a travel fund. And I wanted to teach her how to use a credit card responsibly. And since she has a travel fund, it means she travels often. So I said, hey, why don't we make the first purpose of your credit card just your travel expenses? So when you need to book a flight, hotel, whatever, we're going to put it on the credit card first. But we will always have the cash in the travel fund first. Then you can do that. So we talked about it and we came up with a $4,000 travel fund. And so we got it fully funded. And now she just knows, like, hey, if I want to go somewhere and it's $300, I put it on the credit card because I know I have a fully funded travel fund. So then I just pay the credit card. And the next time I get paid, instead of paying the credit card, I replenish the travel fund if that's a priority in that moment, right? There might be other priorities. So it's like, okay, we're not going to do that yet. But when she can, she replenishes the fund. But she never makes a credit card purchase. Now, she's been managing a credit card for 8 to 12 months, somewhere in there. Not once has she slid her card for any purchase, because we've graduated from travel only to some other things. Not once has she ever made a purchase without already having the cash on hand to pay for it. And that's a behavioral thing. That's a guardrail.
Yeah.
That is I don't use credit cards to buy something I can't already pay for in cash.
Yeah, that's a discipline for sure.
Yeah. And
Good
so,
for her.
yeah. And so my encouragement is that like you had mentioned a few moments ago, like if a credit card is something that is going to cause more harm than good, then it's probably right to avoid it. But what's one of the ways that you can manage a credit card wisely? Well, you can manage a credit card wisely by putting in these guardrails and saying, I never use a credit card without having the cash to pay for the purchase. And then beyond that, like I said, with this particular client, we've graduated from just travel to other things. Interestingly enough, gasoline's like not one of them. So I had suggested that to her. I said, I think you're to a point where we have the cash for the gas. You could just put it on the card first. And she's all like, nope, don't want to do that. I like paying cash for it. I get to see it. But okay, perfect. Like we don't have to.
Yeah.
But there are other areas in which she'll use the credit card for like streaming services and whatnot. But we are setting aside the cash from every paycheck for that so that it just becomes a credit card payment. So yes, your Hulu gets to hit your credit card, but then you're just going to pay the credit card the same that you would have paid the Hulu. And it's all beautiful.
Yeah, I think what I really like about that is the fact that it's personalized. And that the example that you gave was, hey, you could totally start using this for cash. I mean, for gas, and you're almost like tempting her. You could do it for this over here, and you're becoming that slippery slope for her. Way to go! I'm of course kidding.
I know.
But she was disciplined enough, and here's the key: self-aware enough to say, no, I don't want to do that. And when I talked at the top of this hour about how when I work with the kids, that I want to do foundational stuff as well, you went a different direction than I do with foundations. And I wasn't just talking about money in, money out, because these are kids who don't have jobs. I mean, they're like 11-year-olds old. When I say foundation, I'm talking about like, what's important to them? Who are they? Like, what are some of the things that mean something to them, to be able to understand, the things that will drive them and the things that will maybe repulse them. Like, what are the things? And so that way they can recognize when they are making decisions, they're going to be decisions that are actually aligned with their actual values. And so that's something that is a little bit different. But this woman, whoever you're talking about, must know, like, I want to keep this going cash for whatever reason. It could be value based, it could be convenience based, it could just be fun for her. Maybe she's gamified it. I don't really know her story. Whatever it is, she is confident in herself enough to say, no, slippery slope. I don't need you. I want to keep this thing over here. So I love that it's personalized. And I think that you're probably, it's because you're doing such a good job with her that she's able to do that.
Hey there, budgeteers. You know, good news can only be good news if there's bad news. So what's the bad news? The bad news is you and I have a deadly disease called sin. And this disease causes us to rebel and disobey God. See, God is holy, righteous, and just, and he cannot be in the presence of sin. So this horrible disease of ours separates us from the God who created us. And the bad news gets worse. There isn't anything you or I can do to make ourselves right with God. We are dead in our sins and on our way to an eternity separated from God. But that's not God's will for us. See, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. God did what only God could do. He made a way for us to be reconciled to him through Jesus Christ. Jesus came into the world to save sinners like you and me. While we were still sinners, storing up God's anger against us for our rebellion and disobedience, Christ died for us. Jesus took the punishment that you and I deserve and have earned. Jesus is the substitute for your punishment and mine. Now, isn't that some good news? The word gospel means good news. The gospel of Jesus Christ is that you and I broke God's law and Jesus paid the fine. When we place our faith and trust in Jesus, we get to experience God's grace and mercy. Our gratitude should turn us from our rebellious and disobedient sin toward God, seeking after him and his righteousness. When we do, God gives us a new heart and a new mind. Praise God for his goodness, and remember, God loves, humans sin, Jesus saves. Yeah, no, I appreciate the kind words, but absolutely, right? That so working with us, that's what it looks like. It's personalized. That's exactly why I got into financial coaching in the first place, is because I recognize that there are a lot of people out there who can listen to the gurus, and the guru can say the same thing for the last 25 years. And it's generalized because it'll work more often than not. But when you get down to the nitty gritty, when you're pulling back all of the layers of complexity, or in some cases, even a simple, working with this particular individual who's in her mid 20s, her financial situation is not complicated. It's incredibly simple. But there was still a ton of financial literacy that needed to be established. And then the introduction of different financial tools, not just can you manage credit wisely, but how are we contributing to retirement? Are we doing that through a 401k through work? Is there a match? Are we doing a Roth so that that money is taxed today and tax-free tomorrow? That sort of thing. Individualized. That's the way it has to be. We can have general pillars, and we do, right? At New Money Habits, we have kind of general principles and pillars that guide us, but it's not so rigid that it's like, nope, you are here and this is what you will do until you are done doing this, and then you get to move on.
Right. Yeah. And if I may, you mentioned simplicity versus complexity. And as you were talking about, I think it was having this card for this and this card for that. I just want to throw this out there that I think sometimes when we try, like, I know myself, I tried this as well. And sometimes in some ways I still do. So, I used to do the envelope system, right? So I'd have envelopes for all of the things. And I still do teach kids, like, you can use envelopes for these things. It's not a bad system. It is a system that can be used for the right person. And for a while, we were that right person. And then I wasn't willing to let go of some of that understanding of how money worked, but I also wanted some of the convenience. And so what happened was I would do what you're talking about. There'd be a card for this and a card for that. No, I didn't have as many cards as I had envelopes, but things would get separated out a little more. Like you can see my savings accounts, they're all named something differently, kind of like a virtual envelope system. But I will say this. And this is on me. This is not on anybody else. I think it's because of the way my brain is wired. But if I'm not careful, that can get out of control. And it can get to the point where it actually makes it so more complicated, and it cuts against all of the simplicity that I was after, that I have to take a step back and go, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, is it really that important to have everything named? Or do you want to be able to just not spend an hour a day figuring out where this dollar goes and where this goes? There is something to be said about actually having inner peace and simplicity. And I just want to let everybody know, no matter how good a plan is, if you're not careful, you can take it to a degree that turns it into something that's way too complicated, and it's actually it's counterintuitive. It becomes so not simplistic anymore that you're like, why did I even start this in the first place?
Yep. I love it because I can vividly imagine certain clients who, for them, their system, it 100% works for them. And to them, because they've been doing it, it's simple. But if you were to look at it, if I were to bring you in and say, will you look at this? You'd be like, what is going on? This is so complicated. Right? So I think it's all about starting in a place of simplicity, and you only add layers of complexity when you're comfortable doing so. That same young woman, she is on the envelope system, which she's got like 5 or 6 categories. But when we introduced the idea of being able to use the credit card on things that weren't just travel, I had her add an envelope that says credit card payment, so that if she was in a situation where she used the credit card for, let's say, like food or gas, we'll even say gas, even though she won't, right? That she can take cash out of the gas envelope and put it in the make a credit card payment envelope. And so to somebody who isn't even managing a credit card today, they would be like, oh, that sounds too complicated already, right? But you start off with simplicity and you only add the complexity that you can handle, but you do have to really try hard not to make it so complex that you're like, what is even happening here?
Yeah. It can absolutely get out of hand. And there have been times when even just my own system, I've had, time to dial it back, girl, because if I die tomorrow, my husband would be like, what? Am I supposed to pay this with this card or this debit card? Like, I'm not quite sure anymore. And so it's like, okay, it's just for my own sanity. We have to dial it back. And typically what I like to do, and this is just me, I will try something and usually do it for that year and then revisit like what worked really well for that year, what didn't work, and what do I need to tweak. And now that you don't have, if you know right away something's not working, don't make it a whole year before you change it up. But I like to just try different things. And then if I get to like October and I'm feeling like, I don't really like how this is feeling, then I will usually start around this time and shift my systems a little bit so that they're ready to go in January and with some of those tweaks. So
yeah. Well, I really appreciate the conversation today. Like I said, it's a well I like to come back to. It's a conversation that I think bears repeating from time to time. Like, hey, let's evaluate it, because as you said, rightfully so, credit cards are not for everybody, but they're also not for no one. You like that? Triple negative?
Yep. Absolutely. I can feel you wrapping up, and I respect that. I just want to add one more thing before we do that.
Hey there, budgeteers. Are you tired of feeling like your finances are running the show? Well, it's time to flip the script and take charge of your money with New Money Habits Financial Coaching. This isn't your typical financial advice. New Money Habits is about empowering you with the knowledge and tools you need to make savvy money moves and build a solid financial foundation. Here's the deal. We're offering a free discovery session to kickstart your journey to financial freedom. Yep, you heard me right. Free. In this session, one of our experienced coaches will help you to pinpoint your financial goals and create a better plan for your money. We're talking about mastering your money mindset, picking up practical money management skills, and having someone to hold you accountable along the way. So, if you're ready to kiss financial stress goodbye and say hello to a brighter financial future, then schedule your free session today to create the new money habits you need to achieve financial freedom. No, please.
As somebody who has a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old, I know that I said this and I meant it, that it might not be for everyone, but if somebody plans to buy a house, if somebody plans to, and there's lots of things we could talk about with buying a house, having credit. I know there's the idea of having non-existent credit. There's underwriting and all of that stuff. It does add a layer of really strong complications. Anybody who says it doesn't, it might be inconvenient. It's not impossible, but it is inconvenient. I think that there are ways to get around some of that. You can have a credit card even, okay, so if you got a young kid and you own a credit card, you can actually add them to your own credit, just so you know. I don't know if you're not aware of that, but
I'm glad you brought it up because I was about to ask you about it, and I have a case study for you.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have a case study. I just did it for my kid. But you can do that, and they don't even need a card. They'll send you a card, but you don't have to give it to them. They don't even need to know they have access to it. And so that actually connects them to your credit history. So it gives them, like, I added my daughter to the card that I had. Even when I was doing the Dave Ramsey thing, I did not close all of my cards. I stopped using them, but there was one that had been open for like 15 years. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going to close that one. So that one stayed open. And of course, that's the one I added my daughter to. So now she has a credit history that goes back like 15, 20 years, even though she's only 20 herself,
Yep.
And so that is actually one way that you can do that. You can also be very smart about, getting a card and then freezing, you're at your TransUnion, for example, you can freeze your account so that no one else can get other credit with your social security number. That is something you're able to do, to just kind of keep some of those safeguards in mind. And as you just have that, build up year over year, it actually will build their credit for them. Like I said, we were using cards for her tuition. We've used some of ours, but she's gotten a couple that are like $500 limits, and we will just put $300 payment on there and then pay it right back and keep going back and forth with that, and then ask for an increase. And now she's got one that's $1,000, and we just kind of keep doing that. And so her number will be going up, but she actually doesn't use the cards herself. Like, it's not in her pocket for, incidentals. It's just for the tuition. And so I just want to throw that out there, because even if she decides later on she doesn't want to use a credit card because it's not in her best interest, then she doesn't have to do that, but it won't stop her from then later on, being qualified for a house or something.
Yep. Yeah, I think it goes back to education first, right? So whether you choose, yes, I am going to use a credit card, or no, I'm not, I'd rather you have the education in either case, because then you're making an informed decision instead of making an uninformed decision.
Yeah.
Here's the case study for you. And like I said, I'm glad you brought it up, because it is something that I've done with my own children, but my children are so young that I'd actually have to write the bureaus to get them to release to me their credit information. Right?
Okay.
Like, I can't just like log on to like one of the nifty like Experian or anything online. Anyway, not the point. Here's the point. So I came across that same concept, and the concept, just to kind of reiterate it for our listeners, is that if you want to give your child a head start, a jump start on their credit, add them to one of your credit cards. But make sure that if you're going to do that, that credit card is in good standing, that the debt to limit ratio, like how much you have out on the card. Sorry, utilization rate is what I was looking for. Make sure that the utilization rate is low, or none. And none by meaning like you're paying it off every month, right? But I have clients who will do this even if they have, 25% balance on their card. So you add your child as an authorized user. And as you said, Maria, they don't even have to know that you've done this. They don't have to receive the card. It's not like you're letting them use it. It's just that you're giving them a head start. Well, I work with a couple that I started working with their daughter when she went off to college. And when she went off to college, there wasn't really, we were having conversations, just kind of high level stuff, the stuff that you're doing with kids now, where it was like, hey, by the time you start managing money, you're going to want to be thinking about these things.
Mm-hmm.
And unbeknownst to me, she applied for a credit card, but she was declined. I didn't even know she had tried. But a couple of years later, she was telling me this story as we were getting closer to, hey, you're working, you have an income now, let's manage things. And introducing her to the idea of credit, she's like, oh, I applied for a credit card like a year or so ago, and I was denied. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I thought they approved every college kid, but they didn't. That's fine. So we did this hack. We talked to the parents, because I was working with the parents. Like, what do you think about adding her? You do not have to give her the card. Blah, blah, blah. We can cross that bridge later. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. So somebody in their young 20s getting added to their parents' credit card that had a long history, high balance, and low utilization rate, walked away on day one, once like after the month that it finally reported to her credit, with a 720 credit score. So you want to give your kids a head start in the financial landscape of things. That's a little bit of a credit hack to let them acquire your good credit, get their credit score up. Then they would be in a position to get approved for their own credit. And at some point, you could then remove them. You don't have to remove them, but you could remove them as that authorized user and really let their credit stand on their own afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Well, thank you for letting me add that in there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to add before I wrap things up?
No, go ahead.
No. So as I was saying, I always appreciate these conversations, but this particular conversation where we come back to credit cards and do I use them? Don't I use them? What are the cases for? What are the cases against? But also just talking about how it is simply a financial tool. It's a dangerous one for sure. But if you really understand how they work and how to use them properly, it's simply a financial tool in your tool belt to help you to achieve the things that you're trying to achieve financially. And like I said, for my one client, she likes to travel, so she uses it to travel mostly. We use it for a couple of other things in the meantime, but she always has the cash to pay it before she charges it. So that's my advice, is if you're going to use a credit card, rule number one, don't charge it unless you have the cash to pay for it.
Good rule.
Thanks for spending the time with us again today, Maria.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That does it for this episode of the New Money Habits Podcast. Remember, if you have any questions, make sure to hit us up on social at New Money Habits and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please consider leaving a 5-star rating and review to help us spread this message of hope to people looking for a better plan for their money.